the world had forgotten his name. To the citizens of Alekhandria, the shining independent state carved from the ruins of old Alexandria, the organization had always existed, a structure of order, secrecy, and control. And at its head sat the Boker, a title passed through generations like a crown of silence. But what the people didn't know, what was buried deep in the vaults beneath the city's foundations, was that this organization, the power behind the nation, had begun not in Alekhandria, nor in the 21st century. It began in Paris in the 1800s with a man called Joseph Lapointe. They speak now of revolution, of innovation, of a city reborn under the careful watch of the Boker in 2009, when Alekhandria declared its independence from Egypt and rose from the ashes of history. They speak of steel, of diplomacy, of a system that never fails, because its roots were planted by a man who once walked away from everything. He had been a doctor, a noble, a wanderer, but more than that, he had been a builder of ideas. And it is from his mind, from the secret notebooks written in dim-lit hotel rooms in distant lands, that the organization was born. Now, more than a century later, the world watches Alekhandria, a city-state governed by shadows and brilliance, unaware that it all began with one man's refusal to follow the life others wrote for him. Born in the spring of 1809, under the glimmering chandeliers of Château de La Pointe in the Kingdom of France, Joseph Lapointe was a child of prestige, a son of nobility, heir to a family known for its influence in the royal court. His life was planned long before he took his first breath. With royal blood came royal expectations, and Joseph was taught to meet them with poise, grace, and excellence. By his teenage years, Joseph had been enrolled in Paris's most elite institutions, where the children of aristocrats were sculpted into statesmen, scholars, and soldiers. He studied Latin before he could properly wield a fencing blade. He spoke English, Italian, and Greek by 16. It was said among Parisian high society that Joseph Lapointe was a prodigy, a perfect reflection of noble ambition. But perfection, as Joseph came to understand, often came at the cost of freedom. Despite his love for literature, the stars, and faraway tales, his path had been chosen: medicine. Not because he dreamed of healing the sick, but because his parents, obsessed with the social prestige of titles, wanted him to be known as Dr. Joseph Lapointe. And so, he complied. He completed his studies at the Royal University of Paris, graduating with honors from the College of Medicine. The doctors applauded his intellect. His parents beamed with pride. His name was etched into official ledgers and hospital rosters. But in Joseph's heart, there was only silence. On the day of his graduation, Joseph stood outside the university's marble steps, robe fluttering in the warm breeze, and whispered, "It's done. Now I can begin." He left Paris within the week, not with pomp or ceremony, but with a simple satchel, a journal, and a one-way ticket to freedom. He renounced the scalpel for a suitcase, the clinic for cobbled streets, and the sterile wards of Paris for the colorful chaos of the world. What began as an escape quickly turned into a pilgrimage of the soul. From the vineyards of Tuscany to the stormy coasts of Ireland, Joseph tasted life in ways no textbook could describe. He dined with merchants in Lisbon, sketched ruins in Greece, wandered the deserts of Egypt, and danced to tribal drums under the moonlight in Mali. In the bustling streets of New York, he walked anonymously among the crowds, fascinated by the melting pot of cultures. He crossed the Andes, watched volcanoes burn against the sky in South America, and rode horses through the Mongolian steppe. But London, London was different. There, in the heart of Mayfair, tucked between refined gentlemen's clubs and charming tea rooms, stood Brown's Hotel, an elegant place favored by statesmen, writers, and aristocrats. Joseph first arrived on a rainy autumn afternoon, soaked from a walk through Hyde Park. The doorman, recognizing the Parisian nobility in his bearing, ushered him in without a word. From that day forward, Brown's became his haven. He would always request the same room overlooking Albemarle Street. It was there, wrapped in a wool blanket with ink-stained fingers, that Joseph wrote in his journals, mapping not the terrain of the world, but the terrain of his soul. He was no longer Dr. Joseph Lapointe of the royal family. He was Joseph the Wanderer, the observer of life, a seeker of truth hidden behind ancient doors and foreign tongues. And though his roots were French and his blood royal, it was in the dimly lit library of Brown's Hotel, with a book in one hand and a glass of sherry in the other, that Joseph felt most at home. The year, 1837. The night was quiet, but Joseph Lapointe's mind was not. The soft clinking of cutlery and low hum of conversation filled the hotel's grand dining hall, a place he had visited dozens of times, always alone. He sat with posture refined by nobility, dressed in travel-worn elegance, eating his quiet dinner by the window, roast duck and red wine. Then he saw her. She stood near the corner of the restaurant, not a guest, but something different. A woman with soft, deliberate movements and eyes that seemed to be scanning every detail of the room. There was grace in her stillness, a quiet command. Joseph's fork paused halfway to his mouth. The room dimmed around her. How many years, he thought, have I lived without ever wondering who might share them with me? He spent the rest of the evening in quiet obsession, gently asking the waiters, the bellboy, even the concierge, who is she? That woman? The one near the column? She works here, yes? Eventually someone answered. She's the assistant to the hotel manager, sir. Keeps things running behind the scenes. Quiet, but smart and kind. She's here most mornings, she was told the next day. There's a strange man asking about you. She smiled nervously, unsure. The next morning came. Joseph wasn't hungry. He never ate breakfast. But that day, he came down early. He sat in his usual seat in the corner of the dining room. The morning sun cast soft gold through the tall windows. He ordered what had become his routine, toast with butter and a single cup of coffee. He bit slowly into the toast, eyes glancing toward the stairway. But she wasn't there. He sipped his coffee, letting the warmth calm him. Then a voice, "How's the coffee, sir?" He didn't look up, still lost in thought. "It's good," he replied plainly. "Thank you for asking." There was a pause. Then a voice again, lighter now, teasing, "Seems like the coffee isn't the only thing you like here." Joseph slowly raised his head, and then he saw her, the woman from the night before, now standing just across the table. eyes locked on his with a knowing, mysterious smile.